Hello everybody, my name is Christian Quick and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about items. I was going to try and do item group first, and then we were going to put our items in our item group. But then I realized that if there are, I tried it out and see what happened to make sure the item group was working. And then it turns out if there are no items in the item group, it just doesn't show that there is an item group. And I don't want to be user friendly. I don't want people to start freaking out and be like, it didn't work, it didn't work. It does work, but we're just gonna to prevent that. We're just going to we're gonna start by making an item first, and in the next video we'll make the item group. So first thing I did, I was trying to, I didn't think I needed this, and then it turns out you do. So public static, and then we are gonna need a string called mod ID, and the string needs to have a name. So we're going to use these little quotes, and we're going to call it HMH3 because we are moving this here, and then we are going to need to move this mod ID. You know, they're going to do a little good old the good old switcheroo, and that is going to solve a lot of my problems for later. Um, in here, we are going to make a new package, and it's going to be called item. And in item, we are going to make a new Java class called mod items. There we go. All right. And we don't need to do any extending or implementing. We just need to make the stuff. So from here, I could probably make the registries first, but to make it fun, I'm going to put in the items first. So we're going to do public static. And then from here, we are going to need to call it final, and then we need a Minecraft item. So Minecraft mod. So that, with that in mind, the item that you have has to be called, in this case, it needs to be called in all uppercase letters. So complete caps. Slap that thing on your little caps lock, and then type in the name of the item that you are going to be using. So we are going to be making a beating stick because I felt like that would be really entertaining to make one. And then we are going to need to register item. We're going to do that in a minute though. So it is going to be looking bad, but the item now needs to have a name, and that item name is going to be the same thing, but it has to be in all lowercase now. The quiet beating stick. All right, so from here, you're going to need to call this new item, new fabric item settings, and then put little colon. Is that? I've used this thing so many times I forgot what it's called. I think it's called a colon. I don't think it's called a colon. It's not called. What is it called? I don't know. Anyways, since I'm such an amazing coder who forgets what basic things are, we now need to register the item. And I wanted to put the register after, that way you can kind of see what I'm doing. But this needs to be private. Public simply means that it can be seen in all files. Private means it can only be seen in this one file that we're using. So public static item, and then we are going to do register item. And this is basically saying for every item we register, what does it need? Well, it's going to need to have a string, and that string needs to have a name. And the other thing is it needs to be an item, because if it's not an item, what is it doing in the items class? From here, we are going to need to register this. So we're going to make a return statement. So return registry. Make sure it has the T on it. Don't do the RMI, do the Minecraft registry, because we're coding Minecraft stuff. Then we're going to do dot register, and then from here we're going to do registries. Yeah, registries dot item new identif. I spelled it wrong. Identifier. Wait, isn't there another identify? I guess that is how it's spelled. And then we are going to need the uppercase one that we're using. So it's HMH3 dot mod ID. Now this, I thought that we weren't going to need to call it, that I could just call it HMH3. I don't really know what this entirely does. I just know that's just, I don't know, it's just how, you just need it. So then you're going to take the name, and then on the outside, comma, item, and then colon. And then bam! Bam! Look at that. You have now registered the item. But there is one more thing we need to do. And we're going to need to call it to be initialized. But the initializer is actually a different method. So we're going to need public static void, and then we're going to do register mod items. We're going to do little bracket things, and nothing's going to go in them because this is just for the initialization. HMH3 dot this one's going to be logger dot info, and then we can put in a little thing. REGISTR registering. I still spelled it wrong. Registering items for, and then we can do space HMH3 dot mod ID, and that should be it. Regis. I hate this word. Register. STIR. It's TERING. There we go. Registering. For some I don't know why. I'm not tired or anything, but for some reason I really can't spell this word, which is really bad because the amount of times I really need to spell it, and they all need to be spelled correctly. But now you can see that this is gray. So when it is yellow, it is being used by something, and I can middle mouse button click, and it will tell me where it's being used. When it is grayed out like this, it means that it is not being used and needs to be used. So, well, if I'm telling you that it needs to be in here, it generally needs to be used. So, from here, that means what we have to do is we have to go in here inside the initialize, and we have to do mod items dot register mod items, and then whoosh, there it is. So from there, we have our mod items, and you can see now it's yellow. If I click on it, it'll say, whoa, this is where it's being brought up. This should generally be where the last of everything gets put, because if I make a bunch of special items, if I make a bunch of special items, they get registered, like the class gets registered to the item, right? But it gets registered again in here, which gets registered here, which gets registered in the initialization. But everything does end up somehow on this on initialize in the end. Everything collectively. So it gets initialized. From here, let's see if it works. Let's see if I automatically have a beating stick. The moment that I open up my Minecraft, I want it. Just want it. Shouldn't take too long. There's not too many things in the mod. It's loading up. We're doing good. We're doing grand, as a matter of fact. So we got this. We're going to open up a brand new world, as a matter of fact. First world for the thing. Loading it up. And, if we could load any faster. You'll notice that because we don't have the thing, the arrows up here, we cannot actually look it up. Even if I go in here, I believe, it's not at the end. And I believe it used to do this, where it would put it like the last item, but it doesn't do that anymore. If you want your beating stick now, you're going to have to do slash give at s. Oh, there it is, HMH3 beating stick. Hit enter, and, well, there seems to be a little bit of a problem. So, right now in my hand, it looks like it's a block, because that is what's called the model. And then we have the actual item, and you can see how it's flat, so it knows that it is an item. Now I believe this will always be flat because you register items as blocks in S3 format, but items are always going to be flat like this. So that means we're missing some stuff, and we're going to have to register it. So let's kind of leave for a moment. And what kind of stuff is it missing? So we know it is now in the game. But we now have our resources. Our resources is everything that the particular things that we need. That's not hard coding. It's now just kind of, I guess I'd call it soft coding at this point. At this point, we're going to be using JSON files instead of direct Java, and from there we will be perfectly fine. Assets, they're going to be coming to a couple things. So we have our mod, and it's got this little icon on it because that's just there from before. Anyways, we're going to need, in our thing, we're going to need a lang file. So let's put up a new file, and let's call it en underscore us dot JSON. It does need to be like this. So if we had the item in our hand, we should have it running in the background. We'll keep it running in the background. All right. So you'll notice that the item is called beating stick, but it's called item.htmh3.beatingstick. So the thing about this is that that is a terrible name. I want it to be called like that, and that is what this lang file is doing. It knows that my game is in English, so we're going to be using the English translation file, which is called en for English, us, and then JSON. So from here, we're going to need to make item, what it's called in the code, .hmh3 beating stick. So now we have this, right? It is that's what it's being called, and we're going to say with the colon that we basically don't want it called that. We want it called basically we want it called this. Stick. I forgot. Okay, it's tabbed for a reason. It's supposed to be in these. There we go. Now it's fine. Haha. As soon as I realized it wasn't purple, I thought it wasn't gonna be until I hit the colon. Nah. Make sure that you have these little brackets on the outside. But there you go. It's basically saying I want to take this and I want to turn it into this. And then now when we reload the game, I'll wait, but that's gonna change the name. So we have that now, and actually we can put this. Let's do it properly. Let's make a directory and let's call it lang for language, and then we're going to shove that in there. Moving on. So the other thing that we're going to need to make directory is we're going to need to make, so outside our lang, it's not a block, so we don't need a block state. We're going to need a models. Yep. And so there are block models, and then there are item models. So here we're going to call one called item. And then inside of our item file, we are going to want to put in our brand new, whatever it is called. It is an item, so whatever it's called. So this is beating stick dot JSON. Make sure that every time you're coding something, it always sticks to this little format. Whatever you put in these parentheses, that is the registered item. So whatever you're using, it's always going to be called this, unless you're calling by this. But right now, generally everything we're doing in subcode will be called like this. Anything done in big code will be called by this. So the resources, this is the resource name, this is the Java name. So try and keep that in mind. From here, this gets a little bit complicated, but honestly, you just have to do it once, and literally from there, you're good. So from here, parent is of item slash, oh wait, no, it needs to be a name, because it needs to be green. Item slash generated. So that just means put it in my hand, like, just put it, like, so there's handheld. Handheld is like how a sword is held, and you'll notice how, like, swords are not held the same as normal items. So generated is, I'm going to put this in your hand as is, nothing special. Then we need to put in one called texture textures. And then from here, colon. Oop. Oh, it's called a semicolon. Ha ha ha. Took me forever to get that. All right. Textures. Actually, this needs to be like this. We're going to put another one in there. And then we are going to call this LAY layer, layer 0. I'm not too sure what layer 0 means. I think it's because it's just flat. It's just what it's called according to Minecraft, so that's just how it is. HMH3 colon beating stick. And if we were to make a new item, we can literally drag it, hit control, drop it in here, change the name, and then literally just come in here and then change the name again. And so, like I said, you only have to do it like once. So we can delete this. Beautiful. And we have it now. The other thing that we're going to need is a, so we said it's going to be looking for something called textures from this file. So with that in mind, we're going to need a directory called textures, textures. And then we have a couple of textures. We can do directory, and this will be item, just like how models is. So, because if we have a block, then we're going to put it in, we'll call this one block. But then it turns out I don't actually have a texture, so we're going to have to make one. Big news. We're going to have to make textures. When you're coding, you're going to have to put in the work, put in the effort, and that's just how it is. So, let's make a texture for the beating stick. You'll notice that I always have this on my computer. It is just the Minecraft. It updates with all the things, but this is my my base template, I guess. So, they got textures. So let's get textures. Item. And I want stick. We're just going to hit enter, and then we're just going to leave it be for a moment. You're going to need to find some sort of texture thing editor. So all textures are 16 by 16. You are not limited to that number. If you wanted to make something larger than this, we could. Let's grab that stick though. And let's just Control C, Control V, paste it in here. There it is. So here we have our stick. And let's say I wanted to, so this is going to be our base. And let's say that we wanted to have a larger item. No matter how large you make it, you need to make sure that it ends in an even number. That is super important. I would also try, I've never made them different numbers. I've always made them square. So also try and keep them square. From here, let's Control AC, then let's Control V, and now we have our stick. So now we're gonna have we're gonna make basically a large stick. So we're gonna bring it down here, and then we're gonna bring it up a pixel. Control V, and we're gonna put it up to there. Yep. Control V. Oop. Should have been. Yeah. Let's put it down like this. Control V. Yeah. And then from here, we basically have our stick. It's going to be large, but it needs to have some more proper coloration. So let's give it that. And now we have our beating stick. So when you're done with your texture, you can hit File, Export As, put it somewhere you'll know you'll be able to find it, and let's call it BAAT, beating stick. And from there, we're going to export it into somewhere we know we can find it. So now we're going to need to go onto here where I said I put it in pictures. There's our beating stick. So open up your IntelliJ, and then you're going to need to drag it into the drag it in there, and you can see we have a much bigger stick. And from there, let's open it up. Great. So now It's lighter. I remember seeing it before. It was darker before. The lang file worked, but for some reason the texture didn't. I did something wrong with the texture. What could I have done? Ah. So notice how this says item slash generated? This is supposed to say item slash beating stick. Now what is this item slash? This is talking about folder groups. So item slash means it's talking about let's close it up for a moment. So we have my HMH3. So we have this, and inside of that we have this thing called textures. So it opens my textures file, and it's going to look for everything in it. And in our textures, so it knows it's looking for an item generated, but it's going to be in my HMH3 folder, so it's going to look for my textures and my HMH3. So here's my textures and everything inside of it. So if I had a blocks folder, if this was a block, we would call this block.beatingstick, and it would probably be beating block. But it is an item, not. So I didn't specify that it was an item I was talking about. So it's item folder, and so now it's going to look for the item folder, and it's going to look for everything in this folder called beating stick. Um, so there is that. I don't think I don't think I need to put a PNG at the end of it. I think that would be a little much. I think it just looks for the name, and that the .png just happens to be at the end. There are some things that require you to put PNG at the end, but in this case, with just regular, like if you are calling it in your code that you're pointing at a PNG file, sometimes you would have to put in that you're talking about a PNG file. But with this lighter code, you don't have to do that. And then look at that, we got ourselves a beating stick. So let's take a look at our regular stick and our beating stick. So here you can definitely tell there is a difference. Let's go in F5 for a moment. So there's your stick. And can I? What? I think it'd be easier from there. Here's your stick. There's your beating stick. So this stick is being handheld like a sword, and then this is item generated. So that is the difference. So if you actually wanted to change this, that is really simple. You can do item dot handheld, and then I think that's literally the only thing that you have to change. And didn't mean to do that. And already from there, you can already tell that there is a difference. Stick, beating stick, stick, beating stick. So my beating stick is a little bit looks longer, a tiny bit longer, and it is a lot thinner, so easy for good swings compared to my regular stick. But there we go. We got stick and beating stick, two completely different things. So there we have our very first item added into the game. All right. So that is going to do it all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and without further ado,